Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations race at Monza, possibly one of my favourite races that took part in the FIA pre-season. So we were starting this race from P7, I believe it was. We didn't really do a very good lap at all in qualifying. Luckily still managed to start in P7. You see Josetti on P1. Now we had the potential to get way into the 1 minute 28, but we just didn't hook the lap up. I think our potential was a 28.2, 28.0, something like that, but we completely messed up our lap, and that meant we were starting quite far down in P7 when I really did expect to be starting, I think, at least in the top 3 really for this race, because it was quite a strong combination for myself. But you can see a lot of other people having issues also on the lap, not really hooking the lap up. We did a 29.0. It was quite a long way off what I should have been getting, but we got potential here in this race. Now we had to use both set of tyres, the medium set of tyres as well. So we decided to start the race on the harder tyres. So this was really important to get a nice clean start away from this standing start race. Now obviously this is going to probably be quite chaotic into turn 1. You see Favaris there going defensive on the inside. We're going to try and go around the outside. However, we haven't got the brakes really with these harder compound tyres. We're going to have a little less grip than the soft tyre runners, but everyone actually managing to get through the first chicane. Credit to everyone involved with this race. We all got through there pretty clean. There was a little bit of contact at the back, but with 20 cars going through the first chicane at Monza from a standing start, that is to be expected. But I think credit has to go to the drivers in this lobby. Absolutely brilliant racing, really clean through there, and now we're in a good position in P7. Didn't lose any positions. That was key for this race, was not to lose any positions when we were on the harder tyre. We're still in P7, and if we can maintain this position and maybe fight towards the end when we got the fresher tyres, we could possibly get a very good result in this race. You can see Antomics there behind us, Plebtomics otherwise known, sitting behind us there. He's on the softer compound tyre. I think he started the race on the softer tyre. We're obviously on the harder tyre, so we need to defend from him. So using some of my boost, you can see I used quite a bit of boost at the start, already used half my boost, and using a bit more on this early phase, because in the early phase the soft tyre is going to have an advantage over the medium tyre for the first few laps, and that's why I used quite a lot of boost off the start to try and make sure I didn't get involved with any chaos behind us, and still using it now just to make sure I can sit in the slipstream and ensure that I'm not going to get attacked from behind by someone on softer tyres that could then affect my race further on in this race. As you see now, following behind WDP, who's been overtaken by Favaris there. Favaris started on the softer tyre, I believe. You can tell with the grip he went for the corners. However, totally missed his braking and has been reset right onto the centre of the first chicane now, which is very lucky that other people were not caught up in that, as when you get reset, you can on-ghost at any point. So Polifoni really shouldn't be allowing that to happen. The cars shouldn't be getting reset there. They should be getting reset maybe on a straight somewhere further back, or even further ahead, but then with a penalty or something. Something needs to be done where you don't get reset right in the middle of the chicane, because that could have been costly to other drivers behind us if Favaris would have, for example, on-ghosted right in the middle of the corner. What are the other cars supposed to do? You don't expect a car to disappear then reappear in the corner. Luckily for myself, he reset basically right next to me, and I just about got away with that. So lucky for myself. But yeah, Polifoni, take a look at some of these issues that you are causing in this game at the moment. But again, you can see it up ahead, putting some pressure on WDP all over the rear, and we've got Antomics all over our rear. We wanted to try and get past and try and increase the pace a bit as we go to the left, using up some of our curves. You can see the flashing light and turning to red on the curves there as we're using some to try and go past a little bit ahead into braking, and WDP slightly misses his braking, trying to defend that line, gives us a little nudge in the side. No harm done there. We're going to try and hang it round the outside now and accelerating all the way down the main straight to see if we can hold on to this P5 position. You can see that there's battling going on behind us between Antomics and I think it is Benito there with WDP also. We're going to try and brake as late as possible into this corner, really extending the braking and just about hitting the apex and nicely into P5 in this race on lap 3. So in a good position. We've gained 2 positions whilst on the harder compound tyre. Now I did know that Kauster up ahead was also on the same tyre as me, along with WDP, because during the live stream they did actually say that they've already started on the medium. Now we didn't know about Favaris, but my guess was, you could tell by the way Favaris started, that he was on the softer compound tyres, and I guess that the pace of the front by Josetti clearly on the softer compound tyres. Josetti's pace at this combination was insane, pretty much unmatched, extremely fast pace, really good lap times, consistent, and he was building up a gap and dominating this race already after just a few laps as we work our way towards the midpoint of lap 3. You can see we've got a big gap to Calster in front of us there. A lot of time to make up, and also he's actually got, I think he's slightly got the slipstream of Rick in P3, who is on the softer compounder tyres. So what Calster is actually managing to do at the moment is stay in the slipstream, and he's gaining time down the straights. You can see it on the delta on the left hand side that when we're onto the straights, he's gaining about 2-3 tenths every time we hit a straight. He's going to lose a little bit through the corners, but as long as he's staying in that slipstream, he's gaining such an amount on this track. Obviously this track is kind of going to be suited to the slipstream. It's not really a high speed corners, it's more about acceleration zones and top speed. So yeah, really helping Calster out there down the straight. You can see it again taking effect. It's up to 3 seconds there where he's gained 2 tenths just on that straight, 2-3 tenths just on the straight through being in the slipstream from Rick, and he's right behind him there, you can see. So doing a very good job there, Calster, to stay pace with a softer runner, softer tyre runner, whilst on the mediums. And now our pace was actually pretty solid as well, considering we're on the mediums, but we've got no slipstream in front. It's going to help us out through the 2 Lesmos and on some of the exits of the chicanes, but then on the straight, obviously we're going to be put under pressure by WDP, who was actually driving this very sensible, keeping behind us. I don't think he wanted to fight too much. You can see behind in the mirror there, WDP with that loss of aero when following another car, really trying to keep the rear planted to the floor and having a real big difficulty. And you can see again through these fast corners, the advantage of being in no dirty air means you can just build up a little bit of a gap, but then the slipstream kicks in, and yeah, they're back into the right up behind you. We jumped ahead now to lap 7, as it was fairly static for a few laps, driving quite sensibly between myself and WDP. We weren't fighting too much, just trying to build up a gap, and you can actually see that we've actually built up quite a solid gap to some of the drivers behind us. Rick has gone in the pits there, and yeah, he was on the soft tyres. Now when I was in this race, I actually thought that Rick was on the medium tyres, but was quite surprised that he was on the soft tyres and Calster there. You can see we're back down to about 2.7, 3 seconds gap, and we now need to push on. I did actually find it very difficult on these medium tyres. I hadn't really done too much practice on them. We'd mainly concentrated on a soft tyre pace, and I hadn't practiced this strategy at all. We hadn't done any practice starting on the medium tyres, so this was kind of into the unknown a little bit in terms of what how the car was going to react with the full fuel with the medium tyres. But so far it's okay. We've kept it consistent, and we're starting to get used to the tyres a little bit. The race pace has been pretty solid. 30s mainly, the odd, briefly into the 31s I think, but mainly in the 30s. Really we should have been low 30s, I think 30.3s to 4s on the start with these tyres, because they were actually quite good round here. I think a lot of people misjudged just how good the medium tyres were, because obviously with the heavy fuel they lasted that little bit longer and they kept a reasonable pace, but then when you obviously burnt that fuel off, you could then put the softer tyre on and you could push, and the softer tyre would then last quite nicely because you didn't have that fuel on board, and obviously you weren't going to wear out them fronts or rear tyres as much. So this lap we're going to probably go for a pit stop on the end of lap 8 and extend and do the longest stint on the soft tyre. Now this is the advantage, you can then use a softer tyre for your longest stint because your fuel's lower and your tyres are going to last a lot longer. As we see everyone into the pits there to change their tyres. We see some people on the soft tyres, some people on the medium tyres, out the pits, and now we need to push and try and see if we can make up some ground now that we're on the softer tyres. You see Favaris there hasn't pitted yet, I don't think, or he's gone in for a very early pit stop maybe after that reset to track and going for a 2-stop strategy possibly, as he's now on the softer tyres. I think that's what he had done. I think he had gone for a 2-stop strategy, which some other drivers were doing. So we need now to try and push on and see if we can catch up Favaris, and to be actually chasing Favaris is a really nice situation. Now this was obviously a good combination for me. I knew this when I saw this pop up. Monza, one of my preferred tracks. Super Formula is okay for me. It's not my strongest for high downforce, but high downforce do suit my driving style. So I did know that it was going to be quite competitive for myself, as now we're on a charge to see if we can catch up Favaris there in front of us, who is also chasing down Calster. Obviously Calster on fresher, softer tyres though is going to have the advantage in terms of pure grip through the corners, and also myself, I'm going to have that advantage of being a little bit more grip, and we've got the slipstream which should help us down the straights. It might hinder us slightly through the corners, but the fresher grip of them fresh soft tyres should be able to drag us all the way up behind Favaris and maybe go for a move at him at some point in this race, as we now come to the end of lap 9 into the final corner. Again, braking a little bit earlier now that we're in that dirty air. One thing you really want to do is brake a fraction earlier when you're in that dirty air in these high downforce cars, and then just let it coast through the corner and then just get on the throttle just a fraction later and try and hold a little bit of a tighter line. That will give you more speed through the corner, because you're going to have the straight line speed on the slipstream anyway going down the main straight. So try and concentrate on being smooth when you're in that dirty air. Concentrate on your racing lines, trying to make sure you don't run wide, because you know you need to try and utilize the slipstream. So stay in the slipstream, then gain the speed down the straight when you're in this situation now, following another car in that dirty air, as we are following Favaris here. As we've got WDP still right behind us, pushing us all the way. We've got Kowsler right up in front, and this race was actually really enjoyable. I thoroughly enjoyed this race all the way to the very end. I love races like this where we're chasing down other cars and we're competitive. This is the type of combination that suits myself. It's what I prefer on Gran Turismo: high downforce, real track, and I tend to perform better at these tracks. So starting from P7, we're down to P6 at the moment. Now we did get ourselves up to P5, but we've got a situation where Favaris in front does need to pit again, and I think there were some other drivers that might be going for a different strategy. Also up ahead, you can see that they were started on the soft, and I think that they might have put another set of soft tyres on when they pitted a little bit earlier. So going for a slightly different strategy, maybe of using soft tyres all the way to the end and just doing 2 or 3 laps on the medium. But yeah, I didn't really want to go for that strategy because I knew how strong the mediums were. We had done a test lobby, like obviously pitting on soft tyres on lap 8, and the mediums were fine for 9 laps, and they were actually reasonably competitive. So that's why we decided to risk the start on the mediums, and so far it's paying off as we go over the line with the fastest lap of the race at 1:29.1. We did get probably a bit of benefit on the straights, but we probably lost a bit through the corners. But at the moment, I think I could have beat that lap. But yeah, we're right up behind Favaris now, starting to put Favaris under some pressure. You can see that we're gaining down the straights. Then on traction zones, we're going to lose a little bit when we lose that aero that's helping the rears grip down on power. But we're really trying to push 100% concentration. You can see in the bottom right hand corner from the live stream feed there that we were really putting 100% effort in as we jump onto the replay camera, looking at the aggressive driving through there. Absolutely amazing. I love watching this game on the replay cameras, and I really do enjoy driving these cars. Just look as everyone comes through, pushing on and trying to catch up Favaris here. You can see aggressive driving from all of us, trying to take aggressive lines, turning in a little bit earlier while we're in that dirty air to try and avoid that understeer that you get from being in the slipstream. As we have the Lost Storm, I think, on the right hand side there, having to take a penalty. He has picked up one of Gran Turismo's daft penalties as usual on this game, and he's going to suffer a bit there. He's fell right behind WDP in the slipstream, so now he's in a bit of an awkward situation where he's got to try and get past WDP. And WDP has still got our slipstream as we're going to go for a move. Are we going to go for that move on Favaris? Decided not to go for that there, backed out of it and just tucked back into the slipstream as he was starting to look like he possibly, he's going to go in the pits. Is it this lap? He's going to go to the right side, and he's going to go for his medium stint now, I presume, after doing 2 stints on them soft tyres. So into the pits for Favaris for a medium set of tyres. That should be us sorted ahead. I don't think we're going to be fighting again with Favaris in races, and the pit lane loss was far too much for him to catch back up. So we're now into P4, and we're going to be trying to chase down Kowsler in front of us, who is quite a bit ahead. You can see there he's got the gap, and I think he's closing down on Rick. I think he's 2.6 seconds behind there, that we're behind him. And what you need to look at now is I think that Rick's tyres are starting to fade off. You can see the gap to Kowsler and Rick. So Kowsler is starting to catch up Rick, who I think put another set of soft tyres on the lap before we pitted. So he's got pretty similar tyres to us, but they're 1 lap older, and he's going to probably have to put a medium set of tyres on for the last few laps as we now chase down Kowsler. And what you're going to see again is once Kowsler picks up that slipstream, he's going to start gaining speed down the straight. You can see it starting to happen there with 2.5, 2.6, but now that he's just getting close to that slipstream, obviously the slipstream is 1.5 seconds, he's going to start gaining speed down the straights. So through the corners we actually get it down to 2.4 there, but then look on the straights. This isn't the boost. Obviously some of it could have been the overtake button, but the majority of it is just because in the slipstream to another car is so strong in this game. It's something that I think they need to look at. I think it is too overpowered. We're going to talk about this whole situation of the game in another video, because after avoiding the race on the first round of manufacturer, because I didn't like the combination. I could see that it was going to be pretty bad. I've seen a lot of the chaos that actually went on, and I think there is a situation with the game that needs looking at the moment, so we're going to be doing a video on that. But you can see now in this race, we're skipping ahead to lap 14. You can see that the gap has gone up to Kowsler. He's obviously got that slipstream to Rick. You can see he's right behind him, so he's actually gaining down the straights. to Rick, and actually right behind, putting Rick under a lot of pressure now. And we've lost about 7 tenths, 8 tenths of a second to him, mainly because of the slipstream. Through the corners, it was fairly equal, but down the straights we're losing a bit of time, so we now need to really push on in this race. We've only got a few laps to go. You can see we're on the end of lap 14, so we've only got 3 laps to go pretty much in this race. We've got the gap covered to WDP. We're really pushing quite nicely at this stage of the race and doing some very solid driving on these soft tyres. The soft tyres really suited me a lot more than the medium tyres, especially when the tyre wear was lowering down. I found that there was so much more grip, there was more length in the tyres in terms of the distance you could drive on them, so I felt quite confident at pushing, and we were really starting to get in the zone as Rick has gone for his pit stop. You can see him into the pits there for his 2-stopper. Now going onto the medium tyres. Let's have a little look behind. We have a little look there, and we see Rick just coming out the pits there, so that's quite nice. You can see that WDP is probably going to jump Rick in the in that phase of the race. Has he managed to get past him? He has there. That is vital. I think we would have been alright though. It would have been very close because our lap times are still pretty solid. Rick would have had to have been doing very fast lap times with maybe not too much boost left. It would have been very close, I think, if he would have caught us up. I think he would have got very close towards the end of the race, but at this stage now, this is more motivation to push because we're in the podium position. We have Calster in front of us, who has not now got the slipstream. This is a straight battle. Can we manage to gain that gap? We've already gained quite a bit of time. We've got to gain over 1 second though to get ourselves into that slipstream. You can see really pushing, accelerating out the corners, pushing at every opportunity to try and see if we can get in the slipstream to start drafting down the straight. The only issue that might be is when we eventually get into the slipstream, we may be starting to struggle a little bit on tyres, and you don't, when you're in that dirty air, the lack of grip might start affecting the tyre, the worn tyres a little bit more than if they were fresh. As you can see, 1.9 seconds the gap to Calster. We have really started to push. We've opened that gap up to WDP to 4.5 seconds, driving extremely well, pushing through the final corner, really getting on the throttle, and you can see our motivation is really high to try and get a P2 from this race. This was a really enjoyable race. Thoroughly enjoyed this from start to finish. These are the type of races I love on Gran Turismo, when you've got really fast drivers pushing to the maximum to try and get, you know, everything out of your cars. You can see Calster concentrating obviously there as well, pushing through the corners, nice and smooth through there, losing a little bit of time on traction, I think, possibly there where we put the power down, trying to get too aggressive because we really wanted to catch him up. You can see running the brake bias on 0 for this car. I think they've definitely adjusted. I remember when this car first came out, it used to kill the front tyres, but I think they must have made some adjustments to either the setup or to something on the tyre wear of these cars to make them wear a lot more even, because it seems that a majority of tracks you go now, I run the brake bias at pretty much 0. It feels really nice, and I think the majority of people chose the Toyota the same as myself, because as far as I remember, the Honda was just killing the tyres way more than the Toyota. Toyota was much more consistent and easier to drive when the tyres were wearing. As you can see, our tyres are getting pretty warm, but we're still driving pretty solid. So you can see that gap down to 1.7 seconds. We've got one and a bit more laps to go. Can we get into the slipstream for the final lap to go for a move for P2 in this race? This is getting really tense. You can see it getting lower and lower, that gap. We only need a couple of attempts to get ourselves into the draft. Will we be able to do it through this final corner, really concentrating on braking at the correct time, down into 4th gear, holding the apex onto the throttle nice and early, accelerating out the corner, and it looks like, will we get into that slipstream? So close to just about grabbing that slipstream. As you see, going down the main straight, have we got it? It's going to be so close here, as it's around 1.5 seconds, and we need to get that under 1.5 seconds into the braking zone. And can we pick up that slipstream after doing the first chicane? We're in it now, but obviously let's see, onto the power. We've got to get this nice and smooth, and yeah, we've just about got ourselves into the slipstream. I think there we're just picking it up ever so closely. This is really intense racing. Now we're gonna have to suffer with a little bit of aero loss, possibly going through the chicane. Will we pick it up again through here, and can we get close enough to go for a move at any point in this lap? Down to 1.1 seconds, and we struggle a bit down, aggressive through the chicane, and struggled with putting the power down a little bit too aggressive, and we lost a vital few tenths there. So unfortunately, you can see that gap back up to 1.5 seconds through the final Lesmo, onto the power nice and early, doing that really well, and gaining again on Calster, who then starts gaining. I think he had a little bit of his power boost left there, his overtake button, which boosts that up to 1.7, 1.8 seconds. Can we nail this chicane and see if we can get closer to him as we trying to push as hard as we can. The gap down to 1.5 again. We gain another tenth or two on him through there, but again, this race is pretty much over. There's no way we're going to gain 1.5 seconds on the final corner. So, but a thoroughly enjoyable race and a battle with Calster there for the podium positions in this race. And well done to Josetti in P1. Dominant performance by Josetti from start to finish. And we are very happy. I am very happy to come away with a P3 in this race. Considering where we started and the drivers that were in this race, beating some of the very best drivers around on Gran Turismo Sport. So thoroughly enjoyed that from start to finish. Hope you enjoyed it. We came away with some pretty decent points as we let it load up our P3 result and see what points we actually got. And we picked up 326 points. A nice haul of points there for the pre-season to get us prepared for the official season. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that race. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button, hit the like button. I appreciate it all. And I'll see you all for more videos very soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone.